Hello, people, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Ring Report. My name is Dell, and I'm joined by none other than my co-host, the man himself, Mex. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. We've had a very interesting weekend. A lot of shows emanating from Perth, Australia. Another one still to come on Monday. But yeah, that plus other bits we're gonna touch on today.
Yeah, man, it's been a crazy week in the world of wrestling. No better place to start than speaking about Crown Jewel in Perth and one match that stood out for the masses, John Cena versus AJ Styles. I know you've got your opinion on this match, Mex, so I'm gonna pass the reins straight to you and let you get things off your chest and how you felt about the match, man.
Yeah, I felt like it was very, very fun. And I think that's as far as I can go. Like, obviously everyone's saying it's a great match, match of the year, John Cena's best match in this retirement tour. And I can understand the place from where those comments are coming from. Like, if we just keep it a buck, like as a wrestling match, it was very, very good. But I I don't want to allow WWE the I don't want to let them off the hook, if you see what I mean, by just kind of giving us this exhibition of legends finishers, and it's like all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, this is brilliant, blah blah blah. They owed us a story for John Cena's retirement tour. They owed us a story going into a third in the sequence of events of him versus AJ Styles. And they didn't give us anything. Like, they just gave us these two turning up in Australia and having what they had, which for some people is more than enough. And I'm not, telling anyone off if this is what you enjoyed and this is fine. Like I said, I enjoyed it from a perspective of this was just a lot of fun. It 100% was. Great to kind of see after you get the Miz, and I can't remember, you got a Walls of Jericho, you got a skull crushing finale from the Miz, you got the Walls of Jericho that John Cena put in as well. You're then just kind of watching the match to see what's coming next, what finishes next, and everything like that, trying to guess, the greatest hits that he's gonna cycle through. But like outside of that, yeah, it was just fun. Like, I can't say it was a good match because I don't think there's any story there. Um, but yeah, what did you think about it?
Here's the problem for me. I think the way in which the match was produced and laid out, the only really dents AJ Styles more than anyone. Because it made say his Styles look weak. It's just like AJ Styles has now lost to an exhibition of finishes. It almost looked like a game of 2K. That's what it felt like. It was like I've gone on to my favorite wrestler and I have given him every single finishing move that's of high popularity of all time. And I think there was some great moments in there. Don't get me wrong. Like I felt like it was a really great it was really great paying homage to Bray. And the way in which the fans reacted to that was a great moment. But it just highlighted for me where the problems really are with WWE. It was they have done such a bad job with telling stories throughout this John Cena Hill run into the face turn. And now it's just like how can we get fans back on side and make fans happy with us again? Oh, let's just give kudos to all of the legends, past and present, that John Cena has faced. So I think that was the problem for me. It didn't really seem like they were giving the match as much credit as it needed to, from a production point of view. Like I said, it really felt like an exhibition, like almost like a match on a game. It was great for fans like us who the superstars in which they were paying homage to were people that you know. Well, I was looking at the way things were playing out, and it almost felt like a game, like I said. And I think that's the problem where it lies. It's just like they really needed something to get John Cena back on track with his final dates approaching. Do I think this match got him back on track? No. But do I think fans will be happy? And they've almost given fans a moment, or I'd say a notebook of moments to sort of look back on once John Cena retires, yes, but I don't think it was anything to go crazy about. I don't think like you said, people have been quoting match of the year, not match of the year for me. Um, I just think I know I might sound like a grumpy old man now, Mex, but I want them to give me something where it makes me feel something, Like I want a story. I want something that is going to build to something else because the biggest question that I think myself and you have raised since we've started doing these podcasts is what now? And I think that question still remains after such a match of that magnitude. Um, the one thing I do want to say, it was great seeing AJ pay homage to his TNA attire, and almost pay homage to his own career, because and his entrance was great. But do I think it's going to change things in the long run for this John Cena retirement tour? No, I do not.
Yeah, I think the retirement tour has still got a very sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, despite WWE's best efforts right now to wash it all away. And that's what we're seeing with what we got with him and Cody, what we got with him and Logan. Less so Brock Lesnar, but what we got definitely with him and AJ. This is their attempt now. Well, we are on the clock. As we now know, there is literally 4 appearances left, where I'm assuming maybe 2 of them are matches out of the 4. Let's just try and fix this situation, guys. Because I think we said this last week or so. At some point, they are going to put together a terrific vignette that just shows the best bits of this last year. They probably even exclude the heel turn from that vignette. They probably don't even mention that, and that's probably the best bit, the actual heel turn. Yeah, they probably don't even show it because they don't want anything that gives people the memory of what we've actually went through this year with John Cena. They're just going to show us the good bits. Him and Cody, and him and AJ, I think, is definitely going to be there. Listen, these are 2 experienced guys, and they put on an absolutely fun spectacle, which is going to be spoken at length for the rest of the week at the very least. This is going to be at the top of everyone's tongues. There's even lists now mentioning all the people he's paid homage to in order and stuff like that. Brilliant spectacle. But listen, we've just got to take it, I guess. We just got to take it and keep going, because they have definitely messed up, the good majority of this year with this story. A good best part of 6 to 7 months, absolutely down the drain. And yeah, we're now trying to, recoup what we can, with 4 dates left of John Cena in professional wrestling.
I think it's a great point, though. I think both of us keep making it. They're really trying to get fans back on side, and it's almost like they, no pun intended, damage control. That's what it all seems like at the moment. And I think, as much as it's great to pay homage to all of those people, it was what would have been great if something happened because I was anticipating someone to come out and attack him, such as the Miz, or Gunther, or somebody or something to happen. Because I think when you have such a match of that spectacle, and then at the end he's just stood at the top of the ramp and no one attacks him, it didn't really seem right to me. And I think we've spoken about this so-called tournament that they might be introducing to sort of pick John Cena's final opponent. He's got 4 dates left, so he's going to have no involvement throughout this tournament at all, and he's almost just going to turn up for his final match and say, "Hey, you won the chance to face me, the greatest of all time." And I think that's going to be the problem here, is that not only are they ignoring what fans want and trying to almost pull the wool over our eyes, with the match that they had at the weekend, but also the sour taste is leaving, is that is almost like saying, regardless of how the fans feel, in terms of storytelling, in terms of pushing things on further, they don't really care about that. They're caring about selling merch. They're caring about, cheap pops, as I like to call it. And I feel a large proportion of this Cena run has been very cheap pops, and I think that's the sour taste that's left here now.
You mentioned merch, and boy, oh boy, did they sell merch. That whole place was full of yellow Cena t-shirts. I thought it was amazing to see that. Like, I'm not a John Cena guy like that. This iteration of John Cena, especially since, like, when did he make this change? 2010, or maybe just before then, or something like that. Doctor of Thugonomics was by Cena. Like, that was it. The line began there and ended there, like, sort of thing. But I can respect him, and I love when, he delivers those real big rah moments and and promos, sorry, and the big moments that come from it. Like, I think he is one of the best to do his job. So yeah, I'm happy on that Since like the check he's about to cut, as if his check's not big enough anyway as it is, but the check he's about to cut from all them merch sales of them t-shirts is going to be crazy because it felt like the whole of Australia, the whole of Crown Jewel was wearing one. Like it was brilliant. But yeah, he knows now that we just have to do what we can to salvage all of this. What would have been nice, and there was, I guess, a bit of a missed opportunity, where Seth Rollins has obviously went on to become the Crown Jewel champion, whatever that means. He cut a promo after the show saying, "See, look, I'm the best, this, that, and the other, blah, 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 greatest of all time, blah, blah, blah." Send out Cena. Send out Cena at that point at the end to rain on his parade, and let's try to tell a story. Like, we've got the next two appearances are Raws, and then we've got Survivor Series War Games right at the end of November. You send out Cena and you let him and Rollins, who is one of his great rivals. Like, in my opinion, Cena was very selfless when Rollins was, shining back in, what was that, 2015 or so. Rollins was the world heavyweight champion. Even before that, we all have memories, great memories of that Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Seth Rollins match at Royal Rumble when Seth still had the briefcase. And after that, Rollins beat Cena for the US Championship, held those two belts, the world title and the US Championship, for a bit before dropping it back to Cena, broke John Cena's nose in the process. There's enough there to kind of make a little story for these guys, and Seth Rollins can deliver a match. You mentioned AJ Styles was always a great opponent. Seth Rollins has always been a great opponent for John Cena. And yeah, maybe I don't know who wins, but what are we going to do with these two Raws, especially? Like, I feel you can use them to tell a little story to take us to Survivor Series for whoever John Cena's opponent's going to be. And I just thought that opportunity right there, Seth Rollins did something, has obviously just won this championship as well. John Cena, they could have wrote him into a position where he capitalizes there. Some outlets are saying that the Survivor Series match is going to be Dom Mysterio versus John Cena. I don't know if he'll still be Intercontinental Champion then. I don't mind it because I like Dom, but I think if you're gonna have Dom, I think you should save him for the last match, as opposed to maybe just a random Survivor Series. But John Cena's a trophy, so I guess it doesn't matter when you get your opportunity against him. But yeah, I think the Seth Rollins story was there that they could have done something with, but seemingly passed on that.
You know what? I think that's a great point to raise with Dom. But Dom is someone who he spoke so highly of, and his final title remaining is the Intercontinental title. That's what it's just. It seems like that point just keeps getting raised, and it has been raised for a number of years now. And I think if you're gonna have, like you said, if you're gonna have Cena face Dom and to win the championship that he needs to, why would you not make that his final match? He wins the belt and relinquishes it at the end of the day. And I think there's also another story that could have been had there, because you could had Cena and Rollins facing off. That would have then we'd have been able to incorporate John Cena into this War Games match that potentially looks like going to happen. So I think that's the point that we're looking at here, is that we're not at a time where John Cena is short of people to face. It's the fact that they're short of people to face that they can really build a story around. So rather than them trying to build a story with anyone, what it seems like they're trying to do is just try and mass load as many opponents and storylines, or short-term storylines, as they can into this final run. And I think that's where, I think you said it last week, Mex, where one day they're going to, when John Cena goes into the Hall of Fame, there's going to be a video package or a vignette of everything that's happened in John Cena's career. And I think they're going to have to skip past large portions of this final run because it had been so poor. And I think that's where fans, like you said, the entirety of Perth looked like a group of minions. That's what it looked like. You had these merch everywhere. And I think fans are trying to stay on side as much as they can, but it's going to get to a point. Like myself personally, I've got to the point where I'm like, is this run now causing more damage than good for John Cena and his legacy? Because to me, it has. Because You had an opportunity to tell a story of AJ Styles, you skip past it. You've then had an opportunity to tell a story of Rollins, you skip past it. He has a very short match against Brock Lesnar and then ignores the loss following on from that. So I think these are the problems in which we're having, is that it's very, very short-term storytelling, and I'm not understand he's only got a handful of days left, but pulling the wool over everyone's eyes with AR, like it doesn't sit right with me at all, because it just seems like I said to you, those cheap pops is what they've really been going for, and I think I'm actually anticipating SmackDown this week to see and Raw, because I want to know what is going to happen with this tournament, or how are they going to build into John Cena's next opponent, and are they going to bring Gunther back to face him, because I think that's someone's name who's been raised across so many media outlets and so many places, and fans have raised Gunther's name as a question mark to say, would it be a good idea for John Cena to face Gunther? Because I think in that sense, I think it would. But again, it would just be another opponent that they just have no opportunity to build a story around. And I think that's the problem with what we're having here. Is just whoever John Cena chooses next, if it's The Miz, it's going to be another match that has now been as a result of social media. And I think Twitter spats and Twitter beef going back and forth on Twitter should not be the way you're booking John Cena's final run, because me, myself, like I said to you, I've got to the point I'm absolutely bored of the way they're booking this stuff now.
I think Miz could get a match, but it might be like a TV match, maybe one of the Raws. These are 2 Raw appearances. If I'm them booking this now, right, with seemingly intel that Gunther's gonna be the last, I use the 2 Raws to do interactions with Dom Mysterio. A whole, I didn't win the IC belt, this is the one title that I didn't win, etc., blah, blah, blah. And Dom Mysterio goes up against John Cena at Survivor Series for the Intercontinental Championship. We can use 2 Raws and then the actual pay-per-view to build a little story to get us intrigued. Can John Cena do it? Can John Cena complete the Grand Slam? Either or outcome, I don't think really matters. You can have Dom retain and show that, no, like, yeah, you're right to be retiring. You're done. Like, you can't beat me for my title, etc., or you have John Cena win it. You have John Cena win it, and in the John Cena celebrates for 5 minutes, and Gunther comes out and kills him, and then says, I made this belt what it was. Put us up against each other at Saturday Night Main Event, which will be basically 2 weeks after Survivor Series, I think. And then Gunther wins the IC belt. Maybe a bit of a step down for Gunther, but like I say, he makes the IC belt feel special. And then John Cena's held it. He ends his career. He's got the Grand Slam, blah, blah, blah. Even the other way around, if Dom retains, I think there's still ways that Gunther can come out and say that I made this belt special. You think you can come here and win it, blah, 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 to get us to the Gunther match, sort of thing. I'm not a fan of this tournament thing. We spoke about it before. It is still a rumor at this point. It hasn't been announced on TV, so there's no point kind of crying over spilt milk, as they say. But yeah, I think there's if you're gonna do a Dom story, use the 2 Raws. Let's not turn those Raws into, hey guys, I've got 4 days left or 3 days left at this point. I miss you. Like, let's make them mean something. Like, we have 2 Raws going into Survivor Series. Make them mean something. Then between Survivor Series should ultimately set up that next match in 2 weeks' time, which is the final match. I think that's how they need to play it, to give us some resemblance of a story as we close this guy's career.
I think we can go on speaking about this subject, I think, for hours on end, because I think there's been so many times where, like a couple of weeks ago, there was rumors of Edge potentially making the step across to WWE to sort of have that final match, with the way in which it was being teased on AEW, and that seems to be a name that's just completely disappeared from all outlets and all rumors now. And I think the more names get thrown into the hat, regardless of who the final opponent is, there's going to be fans that are going to be disappointed. And I think that's the problem on which that, because so like if someone turns around to me and says John Cena's final match is going to be against The Miz at Saturday Night Main Event, like as much as I'm a fan of The Miz and I think he portrays one of the best heels I think WWE has ever seen and will see for a very, very long time, I'll be so disappointed. I'd be so disappointed because we're now at a time where you're looking at John Cena, and I think it was Ray. You put the question out on your Instagram mix, and I think people were saying that this match was the best match of his retirement tour, and I think I don't think the AJ match was the best match of his retirement tour, but I feel like there needs to be a match in there that can almost resurrect this retirement tour, and I think a Dom Mysterio, I think that is the sort of match that does. Like I don't think there's many better heels in the industry right now than Dom Mysterio. I think if you want to look at someone who can portray arrogance and really has the fans in the palm of his hand. I don't think we've like Dom breaking away from Rey Mysterio. Like that is probably the biggest glow up in terms of character that I have seen in a very very long time. So I think it would almost be a slap in the face to almost not have this Dom match now because if I'm looking at the matches he's got, the dates he's got left, like you said, Miz can be one that match on one of the Raws. I think Survivor Series now has to be Dominic Mysterio because I think it not only elevates Dom, but it could almost bring not it fully background, but it could really start to save face a bit with this final run. And I think if I'm looking at John Cena right now, if he was to retire right now after that match against AJ, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'd be happy with the way things have ended.
Yeah. If anything, this match kind of started the AJ's retirement tour. And I don't know. Obviously, we don't have like dates lined up for AJ or how long that's gonna be. He's just under a regular WWE contract. But I would imagine because AJ especially doesn't seem like he wants to wrestle now too tough. But I would imagine he may not go deep into 2026. I think we should probably look at ending his career at WrestleMania. Just so it's like a nice grand stage, a lot of fans can say goodbye, and then yeah, we move him on and can ultimately use his space on the roster for some younger talent. I think would be good. But yeah, man, I think to put a cap on this, I think Dom Mysterio, if that's gonna be the guy, the next guy, maybe not the last guy, but maybe the next guy, yeah, do it. And as I like to say, have all the bells and whistles. Have that in the actual match. Have the Judgment Day run in and try to help Dom and all of this kind of stuff. Let John Cena put it to every single one of them, so that once he carries that title, it'll feel all the better. Like he's overcome all of these guys until his final boss comes out, Gunther, and says like, you just got this as a little trinket, blah blah blah. I made this belt important. I want it from you, etc. etc. I think that's the best way to go. It gives us 2 weeks of TV. I don't even know if those 2 weeks are back to back or, one next week and then one in November. But yeah, that gives us 2 TVs of Raw before we get to it. So a little build and then, yeah, let's get into it. And Dom, Dom could do very well with a match against John Cena. Like I say, the whole of Judgment Day could do with rubbing shoulders with John Cena, and then John Cena can win the one title he hasn't won, and yeah, we've kind of completed that Grand Slam as well.
No, man, like you said, to put a cap in, I think it would be a great way because I think it brings Gunther back into this monster heel persona. Because I think if we were looking at anyone in the past 5 years who has gone from strength to strength, I look at Gunther because I remember seeing him at WrestleMania 39. And that triple threat for me almost cemented this guy is it. He has everything. There was when he was younger and on the Indies, there was a lot of question marks raised around things such as his weight, whether he'd be able to speak on the microphone to a high level. He has proven a lot of doubters wrong. He has proven a lot of doubters wrong, and I think that's the thing which makes me happy about this. That if his final match is going to be Gunther, I wouldn't be annoyed, but like you said, there's a way to tell the story with a few people here, and I think that's what they need to capitalize on next. But on the subject of people heading out of WWE, it seems like on the other side of the conveyor belt, people heading back into WWE. Looking at Santos Escobar, looked like he was on his way out. Rumors were circulating everywhere that he was going to debut on AEW. Only for a few hours later, it was revealed that he's actually now re-signed with the WWE. What are your thoughts on this, Max? Because I think, if I'm being honest, it raised a lot of question marks, not just for myself, but the internet wrestling community and wrestling fans as a whole.
Yeah, I was gutted when I heard the news of, at the time it was, Santos Escobar's contract expires in the next 24 hours. I was like, what? Like, huh? Why? Yeah, like, I understand, obviously, we haven't seen him on TV, and then you start doing 1 + 1 = 2, like, it all makes sense, sort of thing.
Mm.
But I was just like, Santos Escobar is a fantastic talent. Like, he is an amazing talent, which we haven't used. We haven't even used this toy. Like, we all kind of use the references as, Tony Khan and Triple H to have their favorite toys, and you're like, I'll get rid of you and I'll use this one. We haven't even used this one. Like,
Selling his packaging.
it's still in the package, bro. And what you start understanding, like, right, you start sending the Los Garzas to AAA, and they get involved, and they have your TV match here and there, and Santos Escobar's nowhere to be seen. And from the reports, Santos Escobar was someone that was promised a lot when this AAA deal was struck. And I don't know about the current regime and how they see things, right? But as of like Vince's time, Vince always really wanted the Latin American market and the Latino guy that can speak English. You have your Rey Mysterios. He pushed Alberto Del Rio because of that exact reason. And Andrade probably was one of these people that they probably looked at and thought he should be in that position. I remember reading something with this recent Andrade release saying that WWE weren't too happy with that his English hasn't really progressed. And that could all be a rumor or whatever, but like, it doesn't surprise me in some senses as well. And then you get a Santos Escobar, someone that's been on the indies. He's done, he wrestled for a multitude of promotions in Mexico, Lucha Underground as well. He's come into NXT. They debuted him in like his dad's gimmick of, Phantasma and everything like that with the mask. They've taken the mask off him because they can clearly realize this guy is a handsome guy that can probably speak very well, and we can package him as more than just a luchador, right? And then we've never kind of tapped into that. Like, I feel like ultimately, and I'll put this is a good thing, I guess, because of the emergence of Dom Mysterio being that, I guess, crossover person between Latin America and AAA and now the WWE. Do we need a 40-plus-year-old Escobar? And if you're and to be completely honest and to be fair to them, WWE offered him a contract. It was him saying, I don't want this contract because you're not using me. And from what we've now learned, it's more than just using me. He wasn't happy with creative plans and how you're going to use me. So almost in a way, big up to Santos for kind of, putting them under some pressure. They're offering him even bigger contracts. They said the second offer was bigger than the first offer, and he still left. And then, eventually they opened conversations with him again. And there was better creative on the table. So he took that offer with better money. Good negotiation tactics for him to leave completely and be offered something and come back eventually. Not everyone will be offered that. Karrion Kross was not offered that opportunity to kind of leave completely and still have an offer sent to him. But I think that's them knowing, no, this is someone very good that we could use, especially whilst we've got this kind of partnership with AAA. I know a lot of people said that he saw the look of Tony Khan and what Tony Khan offered him, and the Don Callis family wasn't appealing, so he quickly ran back. But yeah, I think he is a big talent which they could use. And ultimately, like I say, I think Dom has stolen his position because Dom has been excellent, like we've said already today. But there's still stuff we could do with Santos Escobar, for sure.
No, man. The thing with Santos Escobar, I'm looking at his NXT run. The way in which he was called up. If you want to look at that, like, so many people have been called up from NXT to the main roster in so many random ways. But if I was to look at someone who I feel like up until their call up was handled perfectly, I would look at Santos Escobar, the way in which he was called up alongside Legado del Fantasma in such a cool way as well. And I think it was really, really great to see. It was like he was in the car and he said, "What, you don't think I'm leaving without you, do you?" Like that, those little moments. Like I always say, and I said it, my boy Mike said it, make me feel something.
Mm.
And I think when you have call ups like that, it just added that extra layer of it added the human layer to everything, is what I would say. And it was almost like people were on side for him. And I think up until his heel turn, I think like there was a lot that could have been there was a lot more that could have been had with the Rey Mysterio storyline. And I agree with you. Dom Mysterio's emergence, I think, has shocked a lot of people. I think I think a lot of people could see that Dom was better than just being Rey Mysterio's son, but I don't think anyone could have anticipated sort of like Triple H always says about strapping rockets to people in WWE on Real, right? Dom didn't need Triple H to strap a rocket. He hijacked the rocket and sent
Yeah.
himself to the moon.
I love that. He broke into the space station and nicked a rocket for real. Yeah.
And I think that must have been damaging to someone like Santos, because it's always felt like to me he's been on the verge of something great within WWE. And I feel like he had like if by the way, if you ever want to know how to handle contract negotiations, Santos Escobar needs to write a handbook on it, because he left. They said, "We're going to give you more money." He said, "No." The guy left, and they knew that Tuesday they were going up against AEW,
Yeah.
and they knew for a fact, yeah, we cannot afford for Santos Escobar, someone who is so prominent in NXT, to be debuting in the same day that we've got this big event alongside TNA, because it knocks down the partnership with TNA. It makes them look very weak, because at the end of the day, it's basically saying your writers just aren't up to scratch for me. Like, and I think when they have, like you said, such a big now they've got AAA, this Latin American um partnerships going on. You've got all of these great luchadors to say, and for someone like that to turn around and say, "No, whatever you're offering me isn't about money." I think that must have been such a great moment for Santos once he got that call up again, because it was like, right, because at that point he's already out the door and he can turn around and say, "Look, this is what I want, and if you're not going to give it to me, I'm going." And I think they have got to have said something to him to have made him stay. So I don't want to sit here in the fantasy book, but he has to have a prominent role, not only within WWE programming, but he's going to have a prominent role within AAA as well. And I think that's what we're now looking at. Is I'm speaking very highly of Dom because of how great he's sort of made that progression over the last couple of years. I now want to look at Santos Escobar. I don't think Santos Escobar is ever going to be a multi-time world champion within WWE. Don't get me wrong, but the guy deserves a great story. He is a great storyteller, and I think you had the stuff with him in the family in NXT, which I personally absolutely loved. I think he's someone who, like you said, he could speak very well. He doesn't need a mic, man. He's been partnered alongside various people within WWE, and he always seemed like the standout from all of them. Um, so I think now, if we're looking at this in say 6 months' time, as we're heading towards WrestleMania, I feel like there's got to be a moment where they finally pull the trigger on a big moment for Santos within WWE, and I feel like they must, like I said, they must have promised him something big. I don't know what that's going to be, but I'm excited to see what it is, because Santos Escobar is someone who deserves his flowers. I don't think I've seen the guy have a bad match as well. I just want to say that, because
Big facts.
like you look at people a lot of the time, and it's almost the characters are being pushed, but the rest of themselves, there isn't really much there. But if we're looking at someone who like bell to bell can really like stand toe to toe with the best of them, Santos Escobar's at the very top of that list, and I feel like now is really the time for him. It's like he's come back. There's been like you said, there's been a lot of talk around money, creative. So whatever they do with Santos Escobar now, it has to work, because if it works, it looks like a great piece of business by WWE. But if it doesn't work, they've just paid this guy a substantial amount of money to stay, and they have essentially thrown it down the drain.
Yeah, you're right. I like obviously I like Andrade. I love Andrade, in fact. But should I say, Andrade is just a really fantastic wrestler. Whereas Santos Escobar is a great wrestler that can talk, that has great packaging. The whole crowd when he's coming out, Legado, they're all singing the song. The Titron looks amazing. Like you actually have a really good product here in this person in Santos Escobar that you have never really looked into. And like I say, if this was the at least times of old with Vince in charge, that is your next big Latin American star who speaks very good English. We're not here saying, oh, yeah, the English isn't great, so we can't cut a promo and blah, blah, blah. That man speaks very good English. Like, so that he ticks a lot of boxes. I just can't see why they haven't utilized him. And I guess as an elder statesman at this point, like you said, it's not like he's going to become a multi-time world champion. He may never win the WWE championship. But this is someone that you have to question, why has he never been intercontinental champion? Why has he never won the United States championship? Especially at times, I know, to be honest, those belts probably mean a lot more these days, which is a good thing. But as Santos came onto the main roster, he should have been eating up those titles. So again, that comes back to a place of, are we planning for these NXT call-ups? Are we planning positions for them on the roster? Or are we just bringing them up willy-nilly with no plan? You know? But yeah, for sure, I think he can be a massive asset to this AAA partnership going forward. Someone that they should be looking at making mega champion once obviously Dom's done having his run with it or whatever. But yeah, it baffles me, and it's a great indictment of WWE's creative that he said, this is not about money. The creative is poor. Like, I'm walking away from all of this, and it's taking you lot to ideally have to come up with some type of plan to do something with him. And I think that's, at this point, that's what excites me. It's like, right, you have re-signed this guy. I don't know what his money's on, but it's obviously a pay rise from whatever they initially offered him anyway. And you must have promised him some level of good creative for him to be satisfied with, or at least usage. You're going to be used in these areas and this, and, you know, even if it means, okay, I can send you and the Gazas to AAA, you could go and, you know, cause a ruckus over there or whatever, or you're going to come and answer Sami Zayn's United States Open Challenge at some point, or this, like, he's probably got some guarantees now, which has made him stay. So that excites me. I think there's a lot to offer still, and now he's going to have a chip on the shoulder to kind of show, like, yeah, this is why you guys should have kept me and not messed with me in the first place.
Just to put a cap on the Santos Escobar stuff, I just want to ask you for one name in which you'd like him to face as we cut in his return match, because there's been so many names circulating online to what sort of program he needs to go into. But if you were to pick one person for him to face that would sort of essentially get this return for Santos started, how would you play it out, Max? Who would you have him face?
Who could he face? I think right now, while it's happening, the Open Challenge is a good place to put him. The Open Challenge is a good place to put him. We've just had an Open Challenge which never had a finish with the Nakamura one. So I would have said something like that, do like some type of funny finish where he's protected and can, you know, then kind of kick up a fuss about it and then move on to something else. But yeah, we might have to wait a couple of weeks for that because we've just done that with Shinsuke. I would put him in an Open Challenge, even if it may be you let the Open Challenge run for a couple more weeks and Sami's defended it, and then Santos comes out and beats him for the title. Because that's the beauty about an Open Challenge as well. I know it looks like Sami's setting up a program with Solo, but like an Open Challenge, it's like you're watching and you're enjoying, and at some point this champion is gonna lose his title. Like, so it's just like, who is it gonna be, sort of thing. And I think Santos Escobar could be a good figure to, you know, let that happen, sort of thing. Yeah, I just think, you know, we've got some really good people on the roster which just don't get enough, and we shouldn't be scrambling to save them, you know, to save them to save them and not let them go to AEW. That's stupid. Like, ultimately, I'll give WWE their dues. They did want to keep him, clearly, with the contract offers. That was sure they want to keep him. But is it keep him to use him, or is it keep him to stop him from going to AEW? Where right now AEW are having a lot of fun with luchadors, and a lot of people from South America are getting their dues in AEW. They're using their links to CMLL quite nicely. So he would have, again, as someone that can speak very good English on that show, he would have fit with like a glove. So I think they recognize the dangers with that, wanting to just hold him back, and committed to hopefully some good creative, which we're yet to see.
I think it's a great point there, and I don't want Sammy to lose his title outside of the Open Challenge. Like that is the one thing I do not want here. Is I don't want it to end up becoming a thing where you've got an opportunity there, and I think there's a lot of names that could be thrown around, such as your Santos. I think he's someone who's up there. I feel like I'd love to see him involved with Penta in some type of way, but just because I think they would have such a great match. I think they would have such a great match, and I think if you're looking at two people who I think could really boost that Latin American side of things, they are the two people for me. It doesn't look like they're going to be moving towards the Lucha Bros anytime soon. So if there's a name that I think would be a great first rivalry back for Santos Escobar, I feel like Penta would be a good shout. I think him and Sammy would produce some magic in the ring as well. But if there's one name that I'd love to see him face in the future, I'm looking at someone like a Javon Evans, because if you put someone like Santos in the ring with a Javon Evans, I feel like that's where magic really starts to happen, because you've got these blends of this really raw young talent with someone who is so crisp and clean with their wrestling in Santos Escobar. So there's so many names that can be thrown around. The one thing I do not want to say, he doesn't like this. I've even seen people talking online of whether he should go back to NXT first. No, if he's decided to stay in the company, that guy is not going back to NXT. But my prediction for it, I think he ends the year as United States champion. That's how I think this plays out.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad shout at all. Like, I understand Solo and his goons have come back around it. And we went to the Wyatts as well, so maybe they want tag gold, they want all the mid-card gold, if you like. But yeah, Santos Escobar, he ain't got nothing to do in NXT, man. Respectfully, that man is 41 years old. Like, keep him away from those kids. He doesn't need to to be down there. Like,
If we're uncle status, mate, what is he at? You know what I mean?
Yeah, put him where he should be. And he's probably looking at it like, that's why I'm ready to leave, because I've done my little time here. Nothing's really come to fruition. I probably have got about 10 years left to wrestle at a high level, if I'm lucky, staying clear of injury. So I don't want to waste it just signing contracts here and sitting down. Yeah, the check is nice, but come on, like, use me. And hopefully he's going to be used now, and used very well.
On the subject of NXT, moving away from the Santos Escobar stuff next, there's been a few names that have now been released from NXT that was announced prior to Crown Jewel yesterday, and some of the names that are on that list are quite shocking. One that predominantly sits at the top of that list for me is Wesley. I was so shocked when I heard about Wesley. He's another name that I'm now looking at and saying, is this another superstar that WWE fumbled? Because 2 years ago, around WrestleMania 39 season, I was out there. I was at Stand and Deliver. He was someone who had such a great buzz about him, and it just seemed like it was like essentially stick a pin in the balloon with Wesley. Is if you want to see, like, for example, Dom Mysterio turning heel is one of the best things that has ever happened to Dom Mysterio, period. One of the worst things to ever happen to Wesley was him turning heel, because it just seemed like they had no plans for it and they didn't know where to go with it. So, obviously, first of all, the first question I want to raise to you is, how shocked were you when you found out about the Wesley release? And more importantly, where do you feel like he should go / end up?
Yeah, the Wesley, like, I saw obviously a lot of names. Do you watch LFG? WWE LFG?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
obviously I saw a lot of the LFG names were being released, and I just thought, you know what? It's a harsh world. Like, as I always say, NXT, the Performance Center, it is a factory. Like, and you probably have checkpoints at 3 months here. Let me see what you're up to. Okay, you're good. Continue. 6 months here. How are you getting on? You continue. there's probably a lot of checkpoints because they run through a lot of athletes and a lot of collegiate athletes and stuff like that, as well as indie stars that come in, right? So I saw a lot of those names: Jintala, BJ Ray, Summer Sorrell, Hayes, who I thought had something. They got rid of these people, and I thought, well, maybe they just didn't show enough, right? And then the leader of that class, the captain of that class, Wesley. I said, someone who I will quite happily go on record saying is your greatest NXT North American champion of all time. Obafemi held it for longer than him by about 3 more days. But again, we were just talking about the US Open Challenge. Wesley had the North American Open Challenge. And again, you're watching and just thinking, this guy's going to lose at some point. And they told the story of how he was tired, it was beaten up. It wasn't easy for him to kind of keep having these matches and stuff. And like you said, the heel turn absolutely crippled him with these guys he's with. What were they called? High Rise or something like that, the tag team. It's very, very weird. It's very weird. Like, I think he's someone that I don't want to kind of say he's a smaller guy, so they don't think he has a place on the main roster. There are small guys on the main roster, and Wesley was a good babyface. It's weird to see him go. I know injuries played a part as well, but to them not to look at him and think we have a role for this guy is weird. I think the emergence, it's funny, a lot of these conversations are mirroring, because obviously we spoke about Dom and his emergence probably blocking Santos Escobar. I think the emergence of Javon Evans has probably killed Wesley here, because they don't wrestle alike or anything like that, but they fulfill that same role. And right now, it looks like Javon Evans' ceiling is so much higher than Wesley. So yeah, he's probably killed him in that respect. TNA was always his home before the WWE anyway. So I'm sure he could just walk back in there, and if he does, that's almost like he's still in WWE, right? With all this partnership stuff. I think because of how talented he is in ring, AEW will look to swoop him up because he's just, a fantastic wrestler, and allegedly AEW is where the best wrestle. So, he'll be right at home there. But he'll have to graft, he'll have to work hard, because there are a lot of good wrestlers in AEW that aren't on TV right now, So, yeah, I think if he wants to challenge himself, AEW is the answer. If he wants a bit of comfortability and stuff like that, then TNA. But yeah, it's one of those moments where your jaw's on the ground, because it's just like, do you guys not see what this guy can bring to the table? Do you not see how good it is? Yeah, the heel turn was absolutely rubbish, but no, fantastic wrestler that it's unfortunate he's lost his job.
No, man. Yeah, I like I said, I was proper shocked, and I thought, if I'm, a lot of people say sometimes it's character, and sometimes it's someone's, even down to people's finishes. Like, can you sell that your finish? Can you sell that your finisher could actually do, like, his finish is so great. Like, I think his moveset was very good. On the mic as a babyface, very good. But when you gave him the mic as a heel, I just didn't buy it. Just because he comes across as such a nice guy. And this is a question which I raise with a lot of people: is when you turn these guys face, do you have a long-term plan for them? What can you really do with them in the long term? Because he's someone who should have been turned back face a long time ago, because it was evident that the hill run wasn't working. Turning on the Rascals the way that he did, that again didn't really come to any fruition with the matches that they were having. So if I'm TNA or WWE, I'd be firing on all cylinders to try and get him to TNA, because I feel like reuniting what MSK, the Rascals, whatever you want to call them, at that point, I feel like there's a real big opportunity to be had with visiting that story again, because these guys aren't just faction; they were friends at the end of the day. And a lot of time recently, when you've added this emotive layer to a lot of these storylines, they haven't worked. Another prime example: Jay and Jimmy facing off at WrestleMania, just didn't live up to the standards. And I think, if I'm looking at Wesley, if I'm him, I go to AEW. I would love to see him in TNA and revisit stuff with the Rascals. But if I am AEW, if there is one person I am opening that checkbook and saying, let's make this happen, Wesley is that guy. And I feel like you said, it's where the best wrestle. And he is one of the best in-ring performers. Even if he was to go back to that, I'd say he's one of the best in-ring performers out there. And he can tell a story in the ring, which is something in which you really cannot teach. So if I'm AEW, if I'm Tony Khan, I'd go and make it happen today.
Yeah, no, I agree. But like I say, it's down to if he's ready to accept the challenge, and it will be a bloody hard challenge. Like, there are a lot of very good wrestlers in AEW. So to get on TV consistently, it won't be easy. It will not be easy. So yeah, that's the one thing I think he has to consider, because he can go to AEW, they'll give him a contract, that's not an issue. It's if he will push the envelope to get on TV and what he can do in ring and how the crowd will take to him and stuff like that. Because even Ricochet came in, he gave us, Ricochet greatest hits and stuff like that, and everyone was happy to see him. And then it kind of started going downhill in the sense of his TV time was dwindling. Not that he was doing anything wrong. And they had to think of a way to, like, right, what can we do with Ricochet to keep him interesting? They turned him heel. They gave him a faction. And although Ricochet is not in the world title picture, he's doing some brilliant stuff right now with his faction. Very interesting stuff. So yeah, it's more, and I'm happy you mentioned things around promos, this stuff like that, because those are kind of things that Wes has to, learn. There was a lot of good stuff in NXT where, if you remember when he was tagging in MSK with Zachary Wentz, and Zachary Wentz got kicked out of the WWE because of some alleged stuff in his personal life, they used it as a vehicle to kind of Wesley say, I've never been alone. I'm alone. I don't know how to kind of be a single star, and this, that, and the other, and like a crisis of confidence. I'm pretty sure one of those promos he cried in the ring, and then eventually turned it around and became, like I say, the best North American champion they've had, sort of thing. And then they went the heel turn after that, and that hasn't worked. So there's a lot of kind of character stuff that he would have to still work on, even if he wants to go to AEW and be successful, or go back to TNA and be even more successful than he was the first time. Like, there's a lot down to him. Wrestling is not enough, but yeah, we'll see if he accepts the challenge. I won't shun him for going back to TNA. They're doing some great stuff as well right now, but yeah, like you're saying, the challenge is, can he get to AEW, the second biggest promotion in America, and make a difference?
Good. There's some great stuff on AEW television at the moment. I'm very much top of that list for me is the stuff going on with Hangman, and Samoa Joe. Um, every time I feel like Samoa Joe's career starts to dwindle down and the light starts to fade on it a little bit, he manages to bring things back in some type of way, whether it's a promo, a moment backstage. I thought he was done before he returned to NXT the second time around, and he manages to make a return there, and then he goes to AEW, and it seems like things are really starting to tone down with him there, and now all of a sudden he's back on the world title scene, dropping absolute fire promos once again. And I'm looking at the stuff going on with Samoa Joe and Hangman, and do you know what? It gives me a reminder of what wrestling used to be like 5 years ago, where you just had two guys that could wrestle. There didn't need to be, like, WWE have this habit of trying to sell storylines without trying to tell a story. Um, the thing that AEW do great, and which I very, very much enjoy, is it doesn't need to be a long-term story. It doesn't need to be told over weeks and weeks and leading up to heel turns. Like, two guys might just have just this little bit of hatred for each other, and they are going to run with it. And that's why I'm loving this Hangman Samoa Joe stuff. And Hangman is someone who I look at, if, like, we speak about character development a lot on this podcast, and he is someone who manages to reinvent himself, even if it's ever so slightly, into each rivalry he goes into. And that's why I think going into this rivalry with Samoa Joe is only going to push him on further in this world title reign. But how are you feeling about this stuff with Hangman and Samoa Joe? I know you're a fan of both guys, so I'll let you take the floor and have your say on this, man.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned, like, the ups and downs of Samoa Joe's career. And it's not even ups and downs like that. It's just ups and downs of how he is booked. Because I think that's the real sign of someone that is just absolutely fantastic, because you can stick them anywhere in the card and it feels it's going to be important. Like, this guy is so, he's just doing a bit of nothing, if I can say that politely, with the trios title, just holding it and doing a bit of nothing. And then all of a sudden, the world champion goes to hand him his trios title and he takes offense. Why are you driving it into my chest? Why is my title on the floor? You think you're the big man here now? You've never beaten me. You've never beaten me. Like, you on this. He's asking, what's this about? Like, pushing each other. Like,
Am I an idiot? Am I an idiot?
yeah, am I the idiot? Like, what's going on? That you think you can punk me out? Like, and I'm telling you, yeah, a little bit of is this it? Is this it? That's all kind of getting into a world title feud just because of this came across me. But because this is Samoa Joe, it works so well because it is so consistent with his character. Like, even if you've got him on side, you do the littlest thing and it's just like, bro, I'm not that guy, sort of thing. Like, and this is all it was. Like, Hangman meant nothing by passing him the title or shoving it into his chest to make sure he got it and Joe dropped it. They made the world title picture out of absolutely nothing because of the guys involved. If this was Hangman and someone else, we may be saying this is a rubbish story and, this isn't enough to start a feud. But because I think it's Samoa Joe, like, and just the temperament of Samoa Joe over the years, like, it works so well. And then, like you said, they went on to Daly's place last week on was it one of the homecoming shows, and the promo that both men cut, like, all right, yeah, you want to, Samoa Joe's on like, you're only world champion because of me and the ops that we helped you, we kept the Death Riders at bay, all of this kind of stuff. Like, everyone is speaking facts here. Everyone is speaking facts. There's no lies told. There's no like overly convoluted heel conspiracies or anything like that. This is just a good old wrestling. And this is Hangman also saying, look, I'll give you a title shot, but not because I'm scared of you or anything like that. It's because you earned it by helping me, blah, blah, blah. Like, really good, like you said, basic storytelling. They are going to tell this story over, 2 to 3 weeks of TV. And, well, Saturday coming is Wrestle Dream. It'll be done. Like, but they've built us, given us 3 weeks of TV. One is like a little bit that happened right at the end of a match. There was obviously this promo that we just spoke about. There'll be something this week. And then we're getting into the action of the actual pay-per-view. Brilliant. Fantastic. Hangman's going to retain. We all know that. And they're just going to move on. It'll be absolutely fine. Like, but you need these characters that can just kind of, get plugged in. John Moxley's another one. You could just plug that guy in. I know a lot of people don't like Moxley for whatever reason, or they have their own opinion on him. But you need these guys that 1 minute they can be in the world title picture and we all believe it, and 1 minute they can be just doing what they're doing in the mid cards. Like, I think Samoa Joe as an elder statesman here in AEW is just fantastic in this kind of role as well, man.
No, I look at a lot of the moments of Samoa Joe's career, and do you know what the thing is about Samoa Joe's career? I look at his career, and there has been some great heel moments, some great face moments. There's been comedic stuff in there with him, like, I can't remember the guy's name, but what they call him. But when he walked off, the guy was essentially diving through the air, and he looked back. What the meme that was just going around for ages, and I think that's just credit to Samoa Joe because you've spoken about how self-aware Cody Rhodes is. If we want to talk about people who are self-aware within the industry, I feel like Samoa Joe is one of those people. He understands the game and he understands the role in which he has to play. He's very, very good at what he does. But again, it does, like, if you are WWE right now, take a look at this, take note, because this is how you can tell a story very well over a short period of time, Max. And I feel that's the problem in which I've looked at WWE, and I think that's what's been so great about this. It's like you said, it's like there's not this hatred between these guys, but it's almost like you can understand why the fight is happening. And that's all that sometimes is needed, is that one slight moment where you give two guys of their talent a microphone and you go and say, you got 10 minutes to go and build this match. They went and knocked it out of the park. 10 minutes of work, that's all they needed. And I think that's what I'm looking at here. Is like you said, it's evident that it looks like Hangman's going to retain. I'd be very, very shocked if Joe won. Um, but he's someone who could have this world title match and just go straight back to the trio stuff straight afterwards. And I don't think many people would raise an eyelid because he's someone who has earned his flowers over the years. But also, if you could put him in the ring with anyone, and I feel like people could make magic happen.
Yeah, I think the one thing, like, you're totally right about Samoa Joe, and I think the one thing wrestling has probably let him down with, it's the kayfabe accolades in terms of titles and stuff like that. Samoa Joe has not won enough world championships in wrestling. Could be down to his own injuries and stuff like that. Maybe not the companies to blame. He obviously became AEW world champion for what was that, like a month, 2 months or something like that. NXT, multi-time NXT champion, not quite a world championship, but the top title over there. He held the Ring of Honor world title for maybe about 2 years or so, like that, which is big. But that was way back in like 2003 or 2004 or something like that. Samoa Joe's CV from his performances deserves like multi-time world champion in everywhere he's been. Like he has been so good at that top level, and like I said, the believability is so important. But that hasn't been his story, but it hasn't taken away too much because everyone still knows this is a fantastic talent. Another person I got a shout out during AJ Styles John Cena match, with AJ Styles giving John Cena a cookie in a clutch, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, man, I think, it's important to have these characters. Like I say, we just move from each story to one to another. And yeah, Hangman needs a name like this on his CV as well. He needs a scalp like this on his way to defending this title more and more. And Samoa Joe is just a great person there. And I think Samoa Joe is someone that will nicely go into the back in AEW once his time is all said and done. Pretty much like he was doing in NXT before seemingly they revived him and put him back on screen when Triple H took the reins. But yeah, a name in wrestling that, again, when he decides to hang up his boots, everyone's gonna literally fall to the floor and give him all the praises and all the accolades, because he's been one of the greats over the last 20-25 years.
No, and I think you're looking at his career, and it doesn't just. I've never seen someone go from company to company, from promotion to promotion so seamlessly, and just make stuff happen wherever he goes. And I feel that's just credit to him, because he's someone who's been able to reinvent himself. Like, one of my favorite moments with him, the stuff he did with Brock Lesnar, the promos he was dropping with Brock were just fire. Like, I don't think many people could stand across a ring from Brock Lesnar and talk smoke like that and it be believable. I believe that he, like, don't get me wrong, I feel like Brock Lesnar would rip most people's heads off.
Yeah.
But yeah, do I feel like Samoa Joe could handle himself in that situation? Yeah, I feel like he'd give it a pretty good down blow. You know what I mean?
Joe should have beaten him.
Yeah,
Joe,
and that's exactly the point I was going to get to.
Lesnar, you make a absolute monster overnight. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's and those are maybe some of the missed opportunities of his career. Had it been someone else at the helm and not a Vince, you never know what the result could have been. Or at least if he's going to lose that match, there's a follow-up. There's going to be another match, or maybe he wins that one. That if I'm remembering correctly, that was pretty much a one and done, right? Like, I think he was involved in a fatal four-way with Lesnar outside of the singles match. Yeah, and that was pretty much it. Like I say, there was a multitude of reasons as to why once he kind of arrived, especially arrived at WWE, just things never worked out, injuries and things like that. But yeah, man, the one thing with Samoa Joe that makes people enjoy his work, and probably is the thing that makes him so versatile, you can plug him in anywhere, is the intensity. Like, he is just so intense and believable with that intensity. Like, it's crazy. Like you said, if there's anyone to stand up to Brock Lesnar and you believe it, it's a Samoa Joe. So yeah, man, this will be a really good match. We're gonna have another promo segment or whatever this next week on Dynamite, and then we're gonna have a great match with Hangman on the weekend at Wrestle Dream.
No, and just to sort of end it on the Samoa Joe stuff, man, I think I'm looking at Samoa Joe, and if you were to ask most people who aren't like locked in wrestling fans, most of them would probably say that he would have held a world title in WWE just because the moments he had with Lesnar, the matches he was in, and I feel like if you were to look at there just seems to be that list of people, doesn't there, where it's like the accolades don't match up to the entirety of their career because he's gone from, like I said, from promotion to like you were just saying, like he won the Ring of Honor world title in 2003. That's 22 years ago. That's 22 years ago. Yeah, and the guy is still dropping fire matches, fire promos in wrestling today. And I think that's the thing that sometimes gets forgotten in wrestling is it's not just about we say it's not just about titles. It's about the longevity of career, how much you produce out of because sometimes these guys do not have careers that are very long at all. So I'm looking at Samoa Joe. He's got longevity on his side. He's got that and that intensity you speak about. It's just like I think that's what makes it so believable. And I think that's what people, as much as it seems very crazy, I think that's what people are warm up to at the end of the day because it's like this guy just seems like he's angry at the world for the opportunities he hasn't been given. And it's just like, you know what? Yeah. Why ain't Samoa Joe got these opportunities? And why hasn't he become a world champion in WWE? And it's just like, I think the stuff Hangman's doing is great. I would love for, if we're talking about surprises in wrestling, if there was to ever be a surprise, I would love Samoa Joe to have a very short run as world champion. But it's not going to happen. And I think the more we speak about how great his career's been, I think the more I would want that moment to happen for him. But I think I'm looking at Samoa Joe's career right now. If I'm him, like he could hang his boots up and be very proud because of what he's produced and his career. But again, we look back at it, man, is how like to me this guy should have picked up 15, 20 world titles in his career.
This is it. Like you have your conversations on who's the best ever and this, that, and the other, and very few people will include him in those conversations just because based on kayfabe accolades, at the top level, he's not there. Kayfabe accolades, full stop. He's won loads of tag team championships and trios and loads of the mid card belts, TNT titles and Ring of Honor TV titles and all of this kind of stuff. He's won them all. But like in terms of just a sturdy, this guy was a 5-time TNA world champion. Yeah, it just hasn't happened. This guy was, a 3-time NXT champion, fair enough, but they were all 3 short reigns. His AEW world title run was a short reign. He never won a WWE world title. Like, he will, unfortunately, when you're looking at kayfabe, who's won the most gold in wrestling, at the top level, his name will not be mentioned. But I think, like you said, if you're a bit of a purist and you look at real, graps and real wrestlers and people that have really shown a longevity to their career, you are doing a disservice if you don't mention Samoa Joe. And he's shown it again in the last 2 weeks that, yeah, you can have your hangmans and you can have your new kids on the block and everyone you want to push, but a bit of the old school. It's just the experience factor. Like obviously both of me and you, we're football guys. Like, when you just pass the ball to a center midfielder and he just takes a touch and has the opportunity to look up and just knows everything, like just, as they say, slows the game down. Like
A Modric almost, like
Yeah.
a fine wine of their industry.
that is
I think that's probably the best way to
that's
describe him.
Samoa Joe. Like I say, plug and play. Wherever it is on the card you need me, I'm gonna deliver to a higher level. That is Samoa Joe.
No, man, I think it's just to wrap things up, Max. I think if you were to look at him, if you retire today, if you are, like you said, a deep wrestling fan, I think he's one of those people that will get forgotten in conversations of greatest of their generations, just because of the accolades that he hasn't won, but the accolades he has got, and the moments he has had, like I feel every time even if you give the guy 30 seconds on TV, he will make magic out of it. He will make magic out of it, and I think I look back in his return to NXT and just getting elbowed in the face and putting people in the clutches. And it's just like, that is what Samoa Joe is about. Is just like, yeah, I'm the guy backstage right now, but I'll also choke you out unconscious if need be. And I think I look back and I think there's going to be a lot of question marks raised around where things could have gone different for him. It would have been in WWE because I think in every single 2K game that Samoa Joe is on, at some point in the story mode or the rise mode, he ends up winning the world title anyway. So it's like
they
they know it.
They get it.
They know.
That's where he should be. Intensity is one thing, but believability is the other thing, bro. Like, I remember he had an NXT title match with Finn Balor, and Samoa Joe got busted open within like the first 2 minutes, and the medics all wanted to kind of, oh no, it's blood, WWE blood, oh no, like trying to clean his face, like, and he was like, get the hell off of me, like, let me wrestle my match, and that stuff, like. Even with the stuff he done as champion and chasing down the championship, he was in AEW. He was so like aggressive and everything like that. I always hold in high regard these people that make this sport believable. Like, as wrestling fans, especially here in the UK, we have a hard enough time selling wrestling to people. Oh, isn't that the fake stuff? Blah blah blah. In America, it's in the culture a bit more, but in the UK, so it's like, oh, you watch this fake stuff, blah blah blah. But when you see a Lesnar, when you see a Samoa Joe, yeah, try tell me what these men are doing is fake. You see what I mean? Like, so I always hold in high regard these people that has that believability factor about him. Like, I'm not trying to buck this man on the road. I'm not trying to see him at all. He pushes in front of me in the supermarket. Yeah, go and ring out your items and go. Like it's calm, man. Like, it's fine. Like I respect them so much. Like I say, it's only down to kayfabe accolades at the highest level where Samoa Joe won't be remembered. But he's had a stellar career, man.
No, I think he's a Hall of Famer across various different promotions as well. And I think I think do you know what? He's almost gonna going back to football references. He's gonna be someone like a Michael Carrick, where it was that didn't really get the respect they deserved until after they retired, until after they're gone. And he's gonna be one of those people where, as wrestling fans, I don't think we're gonna see anyone like Samoa Joe for a very long time, if ever. Which is very sad to say, but I feel like a guy at his age to be putting on the magic he is now is only credit to him. And if you want, like something which I've said about wrestlers previously is commitment to their gimmick, commitment to their character, and that is every time Samoa Joe steps in the ring, steps on the mic, I believe it all, and I think that's what is just pure magic here. Yeah, man. Do you know what? Like, yeets and all of that, it can sell you merch, but if you want to talk about what's going to keep me locked in, it's like you said, with the believability stuff, it's very, very hard sometimes being a wrestling fan in the UK because everyone's like, what, isn't that on Netflix? Like, it's all just fake anyway, and you have to explain to people that yes, it might be scripted to a certain extent with some stuff, but if Samoa Joe is punching you in the head, like, it's probably still going to hurt in some kind of way. And I think Samoa Joe's a great place to end this chat, man, because I feel like if we're gonna be looking back on Samoa Joe in 15 years time, 10 years time, and people are gonna be looking back and saying, you know what? You know how Jeff Hardy is for our generation, where it was like Jeff Hardy was that guy that didn't really get the accolades and the level he is. I think Samoa Joe far exceeds that. I think Samoa Joe, in terms of like everything he's produced in ring, on the mic, across several different promotions, I feel like we're going to be looking back on Samoa Joe. He's almost going to be, I think he's going to be someone who, when people look back, they're going to be like, you know what? As much as this guy didn't win so many titles, or he didn't put up Cena numbers in terms of championships, his name will not be forgotten by the true wrestling fans, because I feel we talk about legacy with Cena and how this run has almost started to put dents in his legacy. No one can tell me of a single dent in Samoa Joe's legacy, man.
No. Like I said, he's been unfortunate maybe because of things of injury and that nature. You mentioned Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy has respectfully pissed away a lot of his opportunities. Otherwise, Jeff Hardy would have been right up there. Like there's no reason for me why, like, Edge is one of the top title holders in the WWE. Won like 30 something championships in the WWE. Like, he might be one of the first. Jeff Hardy should have been right up there. Had a very long career in WWE if it wasn't for his activities and misdemeanors outside of wrestling, and the mind state he found himself in at times. So Jeff is someone that had opportunities that just never capitalized on them. Samoa Joe, I don't know, maybe it wasn't the look, the marketability and everything like that. Maybe these things didn't really go in Joe's favor. But yeah, that is someone he's going to be, for one last football reference, the streets never forget. Like, he's the streets never forget Samoa Joe. That's the kind of man he's going to, and like you rightly said, he is going to be a Hall of Famer, no doubt.
No, man, I think that's a great place to end it, Max, because we could go on talking to it. Like, we tried to keep these episodes under an hour, but we have spent a large proportion of this almost giving Hall of Fame speeches for Samoa Joe.
I know.
And you know what? I think again that is just credit to him, because it just, the print he left on this industry, man. The print he's left on this industry, and like, I would describe you as a real wrestling fan. And that is how I would describe myself, and a lot of other people that that we're blessed to know and have these conversations with. But man, Mex, if you could have him, do you think there's a chance that we could get Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles for one last time before both of them retire? Because if you want to talk about money makers, yeah, putting bottoms in seats, selling tickets, yeah, that is the way in which you do it. Because if there is anyone, I think, across any company that needs to face AJ Styles on his retirement tour or his retirement run, it's got to be Samoa Joe, man.
I'm one of these people that I hang on to every word. And the words you choose are always important to me, whether that's in my personal life or what I see on TV and in media, blah, blah, blah. That's what I hang on to. That's what I really look at. And I don't want to kind of put a lot of hope into the air and stuff like that. I'm just telling you what I observed on Friday when they done the little pep rally preview show to Crown Jewel. AJ Styles says that in 2026, I'm retiring from WWE. That was his words. Do with that what you will. He said, I'm retiring from WWE. That's what he said. So if he goes on to AEW and has another run and Samoa Joe's in it, yes, please, because that's personally what I want him to retire. I want him to retire in AEW for a multitude of reasons, some of which we're seeing now with John Cena. But that's exactly what AJ Styles said on Friday. So, like I say, do with that what you will.
No, man, I think if we get that AEW run, I'm looking at Samoa Joe, I'm looking at Will Ospreay, I'm looking at Kenny Omega, and there is a lot of big matches that could happen there, because I know a lot of people are saying about how it would almost be a waste for Cena to retire without facing Edge. There's a far bigger list of people that I'd want to see AJ Styles face before he retires. And I think that's what we're looking at here, because, you know, like, we talk about impact to the industry, yeah? AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, for me, top of that list. Change the game. Like, I don't think there's many debuts in WWE that are more memorable than AJ Styles. In terms of, how many times have you seen people debut in the Royal Rumble? Like, period. Like, do you know what? Like,
yeah,
I need AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe before they both retire.
Returning in the Royal Rumble is one thing, but debuting in the Royal Rumble, that's a completely different kettle of fish. But yeah, man, we should probably wrap this up so we can get it out to people. But yeah, it's one of them ones where, you know, these are guys that we grew up on, and, you know, like we're saying, 25 years later, we're still seeing some of them do some great stuff, man. It's a credit to them.
No, Max, it's a pleasure as always doing these ring reports with you, man. But you know what? I think as these weeks go on, there's going to be more rumors circling around. I think there's going to be more conversations to be had. Just not just around these guys, but as things progress with a lot of the other subjects we've spoken about today. So it's a pleasure as always, Max. And where can people find you with your socials, man?
WrestleManiac UK, finding X, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram.
Yeah, my name is Del Tefik, and you'll catch me on all my socials with the same name. It's a pleasure as always, Max. Thanks very much, and I'll catch you soon, guys.